Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Easy Does It, a podcast created specifically for the amazing members of the MJ team. Rob and I are back with you again, excited for another great episode. Rob's turning me down. Apparently, I'm hitting it too hard this morning.
There's not coffee. There's not water in that cup. It's a Stanley cup full of coffee.
Okay, my apologies. I'm also very excited because this is episode 20.
Yo, that is insane. I can't believe that.
Me either.
I mean, I can, but I can't.
I know. We've just been grinding it out, man. I'm really proud of us.
Yeah.
And we always have a little pre-show chat with Corey one way because he's listening to this like you are. But I mean, what are we going to do when we get 100 episodes?
We need to get like those party poppers. We're going to shoot straight. There's the fireworks place down the street. We're going to shoot them off the top of the building as we start the episode. We'll record it. Corey's got a drone. We'll do the whole thing. I know that Jonathan will probably have a problem with that, but I'll just do it and then I'll ask for forgiveness. I mean, there's geese up there. They'll have a good time.
Yeah. I mean, celebrate, right?
That's right.
That's right.
Dang right.
Okay, so Rob turned my microphone down. Sorry if I came across a little too strong there. In today's episode, we will, per usual, have some do's news. Rob's going to probably ask me some question that I'm not prepared to answer. Would you rather? And then we'll get into our topic for today, which I am excited about.
I like your overview.
Listen, okay, should I just go ahead and rip it off so everyone knows how I'm coming into today?
No.
Well, I'm gonna because I trust that our listeners can get down with this. So, this was the first week of school for a lot of Union County, Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools. Some of you listeners probably already had your kids went back to school earlier. I don't know what it is about going back to school, and I know a lot of it is my own fault, y'all. But it has been cray up in the Cabana house because it's not only the start of school, but Girl Scouts starts back up, dance starts back up, volleyball starts back up. I mean, it is literally like it's just all the things. I don't know why that makes it makes me feel unprepared, and I am unprepared, y'all. I have one sentence written down on my paper, and everybody listening knows that is not how I roll. But we're going to do this because our topic today should be something that I am well versed in and can talk about.
We talk about trust all the time.
We're just going to do it. So, but seriously, shout out to all the parents out there who are navigating full-time jobs, getting them kids to work. I mean, getting themselves to work, getting them kids to school, and just getting all the things done in all the places because it has been the real deal over the past couple of weeks getting ready for school to start.
Yeah. My wife does a fantastic job of gathering all the things for the kids and all the stuff. She drops them off typically. But I just, the beginning of the school year is always so insane. You got to go buy all the things, new backpacks, clothes, shoes. You got to get everything ready. You got to get the schedule, make sure they're clear on all that. And then as they get older, you got to look at their classes. And then I know some people, their kids are going off to college. And I know Shallon's been, her daughter went off to college and everything like that. And all the things of dropping your kid off, the emotional side that comes with that. Then they're on their own and they're asking you questions and all. It's like, you on your own. Mm-hmm. But, man, shout out to the parents.
It is. It's a lot. It's a lot to navigate, and of course, the first week, it's like, is the bus going to pick them up on time? Yeah. Is it not going to be there? I don't want to leave them stranded.
Has that ever happened to you guys? The bus didn't show up?
Yeah, I mean, it's the first week of school is just, so this year, the very first day of school, there was an accident, like right outside our neighborhood. So first of all, I can't imagine what it feels like to be those people, first day of school, taking your kids to school, and hopefully it was not a new driver because we have a lot of kids driving to the high school that's right down the road. But so there was an accident. So then Leah's bus ended up being over 20 minutes late. And that girl, we're not about to be late. She does not want to walk in late, like lots of people. She feels very strongly about being early. And so it was just like, I can't do that to her on the first day of school.
Yeah.
And so, we are fortunate enough that we live in the neighborhood right beside the school. So she and I walked
It's
over.
the one straight across the street pretty much from y'all's neighborhood. Yeah.
So she and I walked over, but it's just that, it's like, and then this morning, so Michael had to go into work. And so I didn't want to leave her because I was afraid that something would happen again. And I know eventually she's going to have to navigate these things. I just don't want her to have to navigate them on the third day of school.
I get that.
Yeah. So
it's enough pressure as is.
Right. I mean, the third day of her first year in middle school. And so thus the nonsense of me getting here 5 minutes before we're supposed to shoot the podcast. Yesterday, I don't know what, yesterday was just back-to-back meetings. I didn't have a chance to prepare the way that I usually do. So here we are.
You talk about trust all the time. It's all good.
And like I said, number one, I trust that you can carry this episode if I can't do it.
And I'm turning your mic off now.
And number two, I trust that if I'm not bringing myself 100%, that our listeners will understand, especially now that I've told them it's my kid's fault.
I'll give you guys Meredith's Facebook account. You can go leave your comments about the podcast. Well,
Okay.
I definitely have a good would you rather for today.
All right, I can't wait.
I read this one and I was like, this is a good one. Okay, so would you rather never age physically or never age mentally?
Well, see.
Yeah.
I'm going to say never age mentally.
Okay.
And I think I say never age mentally because being, I was going to say being smart, but it's not. Being a learner, being a reader, being a thinker, that is a huge part of my identity. That is a huge part of who I am. And so I don't, I think it would be very difficult for me to age mentally because it's like who I am as a person. Mm-hmm. So the physically part, I mean, listen, that's already happening. Okay. And it's like, we talked about this. I said this in front of the tech builders. They were probably like, this lady is nuts. We were talking about The High Five Habit, which is a book we're reading in the training department. We might have talked about that on the podcast before, but I was like, I have these 2 wrinkles in between my eyeballs, and of course you'll just be able to stare at them now that I've brought them to your attention. But and I'm looking and I'm like, oh my God, I need Botox. And it's like I can already see those pieces happening, when you stand up and your knees
Right.
are popping and cracking. And I do think that part will be sucky. I'm not looking forward to the aging physically piece, but I think aging mentally would be very, very difficult for me.
See, I feel like with this one's really tough because it's like, I guess the implication of never aging physically would be you could live forever.
Oh,
That's where my mind went. Did you think about that?
no.
It was just like one day you would die, but you would maintain your physical ability.
Mm-hmm. I could also see, I'm not going to speak for you, but I could also see how this one, both of those things are really big parts of who you are. Mm-hmm. So I can see how that would. So see, I'm not like real physical fit like you are. I'm not.
You can come at 5:30 this morning. Come to the gym.
I know.
Yesterday was rough. So this week, I was working. I typically work out about 5 days a week, and then I was like, I am beat. And my wife's always like, why do you go all the time? And I'm like, I got to stay on top of things, and and then I was like, man, I am like beat. I'm tired. Then the sports pick back up. Yeah. So Jack and Charlie's been playing the whole year, but I was like, I am whooped. And then I would still go to the gym and I would do my thing, but I'm very tired. So this week I was like, I'm just going to go a few days this week. So I went Monday, and then yesterday, today's Wednesday, right? I went yesterday, and I was going to lift in the morning, and then I've got a charity event coming up. It's like a fitness charity event that I run. And I've been trying to recruit gyms and studios and just find more competitors. So we went to a gym last night, and it was cardio night. Yeah. Many of my friends were like, I would only do this for you, but I don't want to go to that, but I'm here. So we had like 7 or 8 people come. Sam came, some other friends came. And then I was like, hey, we have to test the workouts for the fitness event that's coming up in September, but I need to like get them tested soon. And then I know that Friday I'm off. We have a softball tournament. And so I was like, tomorrow morning's the only time I have for that. So I did a 2-a-day yesterday. Boy. And then I went again this morning at 6 a.m. to work out. And it was like the workout for the event, so it's not easy. And so I was a little trashed today. A little tired. Yeah. So I'm saying right now that I would not want to age physically. I think I would be good if I could dial it back to my mid-20s where my knees didn't pop all the time and my back wasn't jacked. I'd be pretty happy. I think I'm going to go with the physically one because I use my body a lot, but I also think the aging mentally piece, I almost think it just plays out like your normal, however your predisposition of your mind would go. Like, so I think aging mentally, it's like, where does that stop? Is that when you're 7 or 10? Or are we talking like you're in your 20s and then it just stops right there or whatever? So I think I'm going to go with the physically piece with the thought that I just age mentally naturally. I am a little forgetful. I will forget crap in a hot second. I have to write everything down.
Yeah, I can see, because like I said, I do feel like both of those things are, because you too are a learner and a thinker and I guess I didn't think about that, which is funny to me because usually I would want all the details on the would you rathers.
You're living on the edge.
I know. I really am living on the edge today. But like if I'm not aging mentally past right now, then I'm
cool with that.
Yeah. I would have liked to have had some years of maturity on me, I believe.
Yeah.
You know, if it was like I'm not aging any from when I was 20, then I feel like that's a little bit different.
What would you choose if it was like you stopped at 20? Your mental aging would stop at 20, and then you're able to keep, like I said, it would stop right there. No?
I don't want to age physically at that point. Take me back. Take me back. Take me back to the 20s. I guess it probably would be a lot. It probably would definitely be different. My answer would have been different then.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, of course, then, too, it's like, I'm sure I would have been like, I'm so mature mentally.
I'm perfectly fine the way I am.
Right. What else am I going to learn? But now I just have a different appreciation, I think, for that and for how much of a part of me it is.
Yeah.
So...
Isn't it so amazing looking back at what we were so sure of when we were in our 20s and just the way the world worked, what our interests were, what was important, and feeling like you knew everything that you needed to know within reason. But then now it's like, I was dumb.
It's so that is, I think, one of the difficult parts about raising kids. And I get it. I totally get it. I was the same way at Mila's age, and Mila's 14, and you know, it's like I try to, which this is not the right parenting advice. I try to kind of put things in perspective for her. Like, honey, you're not even going to, like, this is such a blip on the radar. You know, it's like, this feels so important right now, but I promise you it won't be. But it's like, she can't hear that. Just like I couldn't hear it either. Yeah. You know, it's like we have so much perspective and we have so many years of maturity to kind of have that, but she just can't hear it, and neither could I at that age. Yep. And so that's a little bit frustrating as a parent. It's like, I could save you a whole lot of headaches if you would just listen to me, because I'm telling you.
Why would they do that?
This ain't nothing, baby.
Have you ever tried to go back and just remember things that you've forgotten? Like I'll drive down the road and I'll like test myself just to see, and I'll specifically look at some random garbage bag on the side of the road or a weed growing out of a culvert, and I'll be like, no one probably will ever drive down this road and ever see this one thing growing, but I'm going to remember it. It's in memoriam of this weed. And I'll like look at it and I'm like, I'm going to remember this. I'm going to try to remember this. And then maybe 30 minutes later, I have fully forgotten about it.
I've 100% never done that. Now, the first part, you had me until I'm going to try and remember this. I for sure have been like, oh my gosh, I bet no one's ever recognized how beautiful this is, or that it's lost, or I don't,
That happens too, but I'm just like, I try to recognize the things that are probably obscure, but I'm like, this is so random that I'm trying to remember a weed on the side of the road. But I'm just like testing myself to also look back at the other moments that have been important moments in my life that I sometimes forget, or I'm like, I don't remember all the details. My wife puts me to shame when it comes to remembering things. She's like, do you remember on July 17th in 2022 when this happened? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I've forgot the situation, the details. I'm like, how do you even remember the date? She's like, well, it happened at 2 p.m. I'm like, how do you remember all that? And she's like, well, I remember it because, and she'll have all these relatable items that sit around it. And I'm like, my memory is not that.
Terrible. I'm so terrible. Like if you asked me my earliest childhood memories, it's terrible. Mm-hmm. Now I will have things that will spark a memory, but it's just terrible, which is, I hate that because I think that goes back to, I think I've talked about that on here before, but I think I've lost track of a lot of like when the girls were growing up for this exact same thing. Yeah. I can't hold on to all of the stuff, which is sad.
Yeah, it is sad. I thought about just starting to do a journal, like actually writing things down when big moments happen in my life that I know I'm going to probably forget all the details about it. I did that one time with a thing I went and did in the past with like a clothing company. I was an ambassador with them, and it was just the most amazing experience. But what I remember right now about it has shifted and changed. I'm like, did that happen? And how many? I don't even remember how many days we were there. Ooh. I feel like it was like 4 days. Yeah. But I can't quite remember. And I do remember it was more than 3, but I don't think it was quite 5. And then I'm thinking about what did we do on each day? There's little sections of it I remember. But we were with each other for 8 hours a day, if not longer. And I can't even remember all the people, and I can't remember all of what we've done except for the things that were impactful for me.
We should do that. We should do an episode on that. Like memory, how our memories.
Oh, yeah. I would love that.
That's fascinating.
There's a lot of podcasts out there. I know you've shot me a couple of them in the past just of how we remember things. I think that would be a really good topic to talk about. Heck yeah.
I'd be way more prepared.
I'm sure you would.
I'd have to look at all the research.
I'm sure you would. All right, so we have our lovely Mr. Jenkins told me. We are going to page 130, and we're going to dabble a little bit into, it says, opportunity always comes from the form of change. And so I'll just read a little bit of this to you guys because I feel like although we are talking about trust today, change is one of those things that shows up in our daily lives. And if you always think about trust is something that's always developing over time, and it can shift and change. So the book says, yesterday doesn't live here anymore. It isn't coming back, and we can't recreate it. Today has already moved on. And then he goes into just talking about not too long ago, HVAC companies and plumbing companies didn't do service on the weekend. And if we followed that path, we would be in the same boat. But we started to do that. Thought about we only did installs in the past. And then over time, we shifted to doing service work. And so we now do all of those things, which is amazing. But he goes on to just talk about we've all experienced change. And the last little piece, it says, every situation presents its own special problems, together with new opportunities, and our special team of people always figures out how to solve those problems and take advantage of opportunities, and you're a member of that team. And so throughout this whole thing, he just talks about how things were the way that they were until they weren't. Yep. And you have a choice at that moment of, do I continue doing the thing that has been working for us, or do I shift towards something new, even if you don't know what the end game outcome is going to be. but knowing that, hey, Dewey used to say this all the time, that you have to be willing and brave enough to change things when they're working before they stop, because once they stop working, then you're behind the 8 ball.
Yep. Yeah, I think it is. So for all my high S's out there, which is a good many of you, if you've been to the class, you know that a lot of us fall into the S category. But when he says opportunities always come in the form of change, well, just the word change, of course, for a 99S like myself makes me cringe. But I think number one, I think it's important to recognize that about ourselves, is no matter what the change is going to be, it's going to feel a little wonky to me regardless. And I just got to be prepared for what that's going to feel like. So some self-awareness around that I think is great. But I think also recognizing that if we don't embrace some of the change, if we don't look to change, then nothing ever changes. It's like I don't remember the Jim Rohn quote, but he's like, if things don't change by chance, like you have to be something different, you got to do something different, which requires a change. So I think change is hard, but it's also necessary. Like all of these things, the changes we've made as a business, Dewey used to talk about how businesses die, the life cycle of a business. And if you don't make a change or you're not looking forward to the future, then the business dies. And so all of these things that we've done here, they've been in an effort to keep us growing, not dying. It makes me think of The Infinite Game. That's a book in the library. And by Simon Sinek. And The Infinite Game, a finite game is where there's a loser and a winner. And there's an agreed upon time frame and everybody's playing by the same rules. In an infinite game, there is no timeline. It never ends. The goal of an infinite game is to keep playing. And obviously at Morris-Jenkins, we want to keep playing. There's no end in sight. So if there's no end in sight, we'll have to change at some point. We're playing the infinite game, not the finite game.
Right.
And I think these changes that we've made over the course of time, that's what's allowed us to continue to stay in the game. Because I think a lot of companies, we see other HVAC companies that don't change, and they're not looking to do things differently for their customers, and inevitably the business dies.
Our customers are definitely changing what they expect from businesses, whether it's ease, effort.
Think if we didn't do chat and stuff.
Yeah.
Like if we just had said, we're not doing that. We're just going to take calls.
Yeah.
I know myself as a consumer, no thank you.
A lot of people, if you even think ordering food now, if you're going to get something from Domino's, Papa John, how many people are actually still calling in to order something unless you have questions about something?
Yeah.
And then you can go online, you can chat in, whatever. Everything that we even do now is all digital. It's through the app. Nobody really wants to talk anymore.
Right.
Which is fine. And I was talking to some people in the contact center side and just seeing the number of requests that come in on just the e-support side, whether it be chats, people shooting emails in, or they're going through our whole process of requesting service. It's insane how many people just pop on there and are just talking. I hopped on our website not long ago just to look at something to see if something was displayed on there, and our little chat bubble pops up, and I was like, I'm going to send whoever this is, I'm going to just make their life complicated. But it's cool that the chat pops up and it links to somebody that's working, which is cool.
Yeah. Just think if we had, if you're not changing to accommodate the customer, to accommodate just societal changes as a whole, a business who cannot navigate chats and emails and things in this day and age, it will suffer. And so I think we see those opportunities, or we try our best to see all the opportunities that can come our way. And sometimes the change is hard. aka Service Titan. Sometimes the change is hard, but at the end of the day, the change is necessary. Service Titan offers us another opportunity to keep growing.
Yeah.
I mean, just at the end of the day, that really is what that's about. And so it's hard, and we'll get better at it, but it really is another opportunity for us to just keep getting better.
Right. Yeah, Service Titan has not been easy along the way, but looking at the amount of good things that can come out of it for us as we grow in the future is going to be great.
Yep.
I know this is kind of a stretch, but it relates to change. But I do talk about in the Tech Builder and Build a Plumber classes about being a high S, not wanting to change, like needing the consistency. I say, I'm one where I go to the same restaurant on Fridays. You guys know, if you're a P1 listener and you've been listening since the beginning, you know what I go to Chewy's on Fridays. Every Friday with the family. And now our kids' practice goes until 8. So now we aren't getting out at 7:30, 7 o'clock. It's now 8 o'clock. So it's like, what are we going to do? So when I go to Chewy's, I always get the same thing. And Susie's asked me, why don't you try something new? And I'm like, I'm getting the steak fajitas. I'm getting my Chewy's brew, and we're going to get the chips and salsa with the creamy jalapeno dip too. That's what I get. Y'all can try something new. I ain't trying nothing new. So I asked the people in the class, I'm like, guys, who in here likes going to the same restaurant all the time? Like that's their spot. And a bunch of people raise their hand. And then I'm like, how many of you order the same exact thing when you go to that spot? And pretty much everybody, minus like 1 or 2 of them, will keep their hand up. And then I'm like, why don't you want to change? And they're like, there's risk that the thing that I'm trying, I'm not going to like.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's just a waste of time and money. Like they can just take the words right out of my mouth. Like I'm like, yep, exactly right. So change, I mean, it's something as small as trying a new meal at a restaurant. It requires a little bit of courage and just like, I'm just going to do it. And it feels uncomfortable. But then what happens when you try it and you're like, yo, this is good.
Yeah. It's the opportunity.
Yeah.
It's the opportunity to find something else that would be equally as yummy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't heard yummy in a while.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
It's funny you say that. So Waxhaw Creamery, y'all. Waxhaw Creamery is the best ice cream.
It's better than Jenny's. Have you been to Jenny's?
Yes. Okay.
Talk to me.
So Jenny's, I think, is great. But you got to be kidding me with those 2 tiny little scoops. And that little waffle cone. I do appreciate the little waffle cone.
Do people complain when they get an espresso shot? You can get a whole cup of coffee, or you can get an espresso shot and get to the point.
I know, but I just can't. I've only been to Jenny's once, so I guess I'm not giving it a fair shot here. But the Waxhaw Creamery ice cream, first of all, the butter pecan, and I understand that makes me a grandma. I know that only grandmas eat butter pecan ice cream. But the Waxhaw Creamery ice cream, the butter pecan has, like, the pecans have sugary goodness. Like a sugary...
You can't look me in the eyes and say sugary goodness.
Cinnamon swirly situation. So the moral of the story is I've always gotten butter pecan because it's fantastic. But just recently I've started getting butter pecan and Butterfinger because you can get 2 scoops in the small.
That does sound good.
The Butterfinger is insane. It's so good.
Better than a Butterfinger, like the actual candy bar.
Yes. And had I not, going back to the Chewy's reference, had I not branched out and tried another flavor, I would never know now. I'm thinking about next time not getting any butter pecan.
Really?
Yeah.
It's that good.
Mm-hmm. This is just where I am right now. It's just shooting from the hip.
Okay. This is in Waxhaw. It's like downtown Waxhaw?
Yes.
Off 75?
Yep.
Okay.
So moral of the story is...
Try something new. Change.
Yep.
Change. Meredith, what are we talking about today?
Today, we are talking about trust.
You go first.
I am going to go first.
Oh, I was kidding, but heck yeah, let's go.
I have.
Okay.
I want, you guys know I love to do a little read aloud, and I have the perfect thing from The Speed of Trust by Stephen Covey, also in the library.
Y'all can't see this, but she has like 19 books in here on the table.
Okay, so this is what I do when I'm not prepared. Is I'm like, oh, this book. They all have something about trust. So I found this section in this book, and I think it's just a great intro to trust. Trust is something that we talk about a lot here at Morris-Jenkins. It plays a huge role in the fundamentals, and it just really is the foundation of teams, of people working together, people of us being able to keep this machine running. It really, truly is.
For sure.
And so I think that's why that came up for us, and why we decided to do this episode. Is it kind of is a foundation or a bedrock for, I would say, like, all that we do. But
Well, we're going to talk about this later, but you think about any successful team, relationship, everything boils down to the trust that you have with the people.
yeah. Okay, so I'm going to read, it's not like super long, but I'm going to read you the whole thing because it's really good. So the title of it is The One Thing That Changes Everything. Bet you don't know what they're talking about. It's trust.
Chewies.
Wax all cream.
It will change your life.
Okay. There is one thing that is common to every individual, relationship, team, family, organization, nation, economy, and civilization throughout the world. One thing which, if removed, will destroy the most powerful government, the most successful business, the most thriving economy, the most influential leadership, the greatest friendship, the strongest character, the deepest love. On the other hand, if developed and leveraged, that one thing has the potential to create unparalleled success and prosperity in every dimension of life. Yet, it is the least understood, most neglected, and most underestimated possibility of our time. That one thing is trust. Trust impacts us 24/7, 365 days a year. It undergirds and affects the quality of every relationship, every communication, every work project, every business venture, every effort in which we are engaged. It changes the quality of every present moment and alters the trajectory and outcome of every future moment of our lives, both personally and professionally. Contrary to what most people believe, trust is not some soft, elusive quality that you either have or you don't. Rather, trust is a pragmatic, tangible, actionable asset that you can create much faster than you probably think possible. While corporate scandals, terrorist threats, office politics, and broken relationships have created low trust on almost every front, I contend that the ability to establish, grow, extend, and restore trust is not only vital to our personal and interpersonal well-being, it is the key leadership competency of the new global economy. I am also convinced that in every situation, nothing is as fast as the speed of trust. And contrary to popular belief, trust is something you can do something about. In fact, you can get really good at creating it. Stop the podcast right there.
That's all you need to know.
I was just like, well, now I know why we're doing this episode.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, when it's like, it impacts every relationship, it impacts everything, you know, whether you work or whether you don't work, it impacts your everything that happens at work, everything that happens at home, 365, 24/7. And it's so funny that I don't think we think about it or talk about it enough for it to have such a profound impact on our lives.
You know, that actually takes me back to, I can't remember if you said it was Brene Brown or something other. You're going to finish the rest of this because I can't remember it all. Your brain is sitting in a dark place. Mm-hmm. There's no sound. There's no light. Mm-hmm. What is the rest?
Its only job is to keep us alive.
Yeah.
It's just doing the best it can with what we give it.
And that just takes me back to, like, that's the sole job of your brain is to take in all that information and decipher and kind of tell you what's going on. But all it's trying to do is predict what's going to happen. And it takes past experiences to help you take action moving forward. And I feel like I came across a couple of definitions for trust, which I thought was interesting because, I mean, I know you come across any definition, you got several. But the one that I always thought about, you know, the common ones were belief that someone or something will act consistently with expected behaviors. So someone or something, which is pretty typical. The more personal one, which is on teams, relationships, is the confidence that others will act with good intentions. But the one that I always stick with that always comes up for me is being able to predict someone's behavior or being able to predict behavior, because that behavior could be in a person or it could be in a thing. I always trust that Chewy's will be good on Fridays.
Yeah.
Even though it's people that do that, but it's like the experience so it's a thing. You know, that's what I expect, and it's consistent. And there have been times that I've got there, very few, but there's been times that things don't come out the way that they should, or it's a little bit busier or whatever, and it's like, oh, this kind of changes things. And we actually brought a couple there one time. Chewy's is getting big shout outs today. We brought a couple there one time. They're like, yeah, we don't really like it here. I'm like, why not? The service wasn't great the 2 times that we tried it, and so we just never come. So this was the 3rd time they were there, and it was fine. Like everything worked out fine. I'm like, so you're going to come back? Probably not. For them, their trust was hurt to where they're like, I'm not even going to give it another chance, even though we've been there for years every Friday. And we've only had just a handful of bad experiences. And it's funny that those separate experiences, even though I have more data to show that it is good, theirs, it's like, I'm not even going to give it a chance.
Yeah. That is fascinating to me but I guess it goes back to kind of what you were saying about the brain. I never really related that comment about the brain like you just did to trust, but I can see now that is maybe that's kind of what our brain is doing.
Yeah.
It's like, can I trust this to not harm me? Can I trust this to be what I expect it to be? Because we are trying to predict what's happening next so we can act accordingly to keep ourselves alive. But that's interesting, the connection that probably that is what our brain is doing. It's kind of using all those cues to figure out what can we trust, because all our brain's doing is looking for threats. And if I can trust somebody or something, then it's no longer threatening to me.
It's interesting to think of how we navigate future situations that we're faced with, whether that be people or things. We only are able to navigate it with our experience and then what we've learned about it. Like if you're going to go do a race or something like that. I did an obstacle course race years ago, and I have never done one before. So the only experience, quote unquote, that I had was just going online and looking stuff up. I'm like, I've ran before and I've done like obstacles before, but I've never done them together. So I didn't have any experience. So then when I went and tried a different one after I had that first one under the belt, I only relate to what this race is going to be based on that experience. Now I've run probably 15 races over the years. And so just signing up for a race, we did a mud run. I've never done one of those, but how did I relate that? I related against all of the other obstacle course races that I've done. So I was very comfortable, but trying something new with no experience, that's where the anxiety and all that tension can set in.
Because you can't trust what to expect.
Yeah,
that is very interesting, the example you gave about Chewy's, because I think we all have situations like that where something or someone has, I don't know what the right word is. I mean, it takes very few interactions with someone or something for us to then be like, yep, not again. Which is crazy because, if you think about someone, how many opportunities do we give someone?
Oh, yeah.
Like it's one thing for it to be Chewy's and I decide I'm not going to go eat at Chewy's anymore. It's like this didn't live up to the hype. We've tried it and we're not going to do it. I think we all have things like that in our lives. But when it's someone and someone lets me down or doesn't follow through, how quickly we can
cut. You're done. You're done.
It's like we're very hesitant. It doesn't take many.
Which that could be. I mean, how sad is that it's like one or two bad impressions or moments, whether it be at a restaurant or situation or a person. I'm done.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not doing that anymore. I tell the tech builders all the time that first impressions happen in about 2 to 7 seconds. You're getting an idea of who they are, what they believe, all the things, and you're doing it subconsciously. It's running in the background. and then you base all of your future interactions with them based off of your first interaction. So that's why when you first meet people, like if you were ever to watch two people meet each other for the first time, if you study body language, you could watch their eyes because they're searching their whole face. Oh. They're kind of figuring out who this person is. Are they like me or not? Do we have the same personalities? I met a guy last night at that gym that we went to. We call him Big K is his name. Kieran is his name. So everybody just calls him Big K. But super bubbly, nice guy, very kind, high energy, probably a little higher than where I normally settle in. And just was like motivated the whole class. And I was like, I like being around this guy. It's cool. But imagine if it was somebody that's like, hey, welcome in.
Yeah, right.
Come on over here and I'm going to put this heart rate monitor on you. Here's your towel. They're going to teach you about the class. Like some people may love that. But for me, I probably wouldn't like that. So we're always searching to find people. And that first impression, it's like, hey, that's how I will always remember him. Yeah. And then I base all my future interactions in the future, of course. Yeah. I base them on that initial reaction that I had with them.
Yeah, it makes me think of our kids meeting their teachers this week.
Yep.
Or your kids started already, but like.
Oh yeah.
But I think it's interesting because that's, of course, that's one thing we talk about when the girls come home is like, what did you think about your teachers? And it's like in that split second that they've met them and engaged with them, they've decided or they're starting to decide whether they can trust this person or not.
Yep.
Which I think is very interesting to recognize that we hold that much power. I think it's also interesting that is, I guess it says how important trust is. That number one, we're looking to create it right away. And number two, that if you cross, I don't know what, let down, I feel like I'm not using the right word. If you let someone down, it doesn't even have to be, like, it can be one or two times. It's such an important part of our relationships with people that it doesn't take very many times for us to be like, okay, my viewpoint of you is clouded, and probably a little judgy.
How does that differ from person to person?
I do think that there are people, like I want to trust everybody. I am a little bit skeptical of people, maybe.
Everybody?
No. Maybe I'm not skeptical of people. I'm skeptical of situations. I think that goes back to my high C wanting to know all the details. I want to trust everyone. I want to believe the best about everybody. And so maybe I would be the type of person who would give someone more opportunities. So like if you screwed up, then maybe I would be willing to give a few more opportunities because I want to believe the best about people. Yeah. Now, when it comes to stuff like my work or things that I am involved in that have my name on them, no. It's not going to take very many times for me to be like, no.
I got it.
I'm taking, yep.
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Why do you think that is?
Well, this goes back to my answer about physically or mentally. I think I associate a lot of myself and likely some of my worth on my work, my body of work, the classes I create, the things that I produce. I put a lot of value and worth on those things. And so if I'm working with someone else and they drop the ball or they don't do what, then in my name it's associated to my work. That to me is that's a bigger strike.
I don't think it's a strike.
Strike one.
You're done. Sit down. I was actually, we were talking about this in one of our classes one time, of how can we, if we can, separate our self-worth from our work. I think if you do self-work over time, like it's easier to separate those things, but it's still crazy hard to be
Yeah.
like, hey, like this is the work that I've done, and the work that I've done is an impression of me or a representation of me. So if this is bad, then it makes me bad.
Yeah.
And that's not the case when we have our own values and you just say, this is who I am. This is just something I've done.
Right.
If the thing I've done is not great, then I can always work on that and make it better. But that doesn't change my own self-worth, how I view myself. If I allow it to, then that starts to change how you interact with other people and how you tackle future projects. So you want to have, I think what's challenging is you want to put all yourself into products and be like, hey, this is what I've turned out. This is what I'm going to go teach, or this is a thing that I've created and I stand firmly behind it. I guarantee it's going to be good. But then, like, so you put that work into it, but if it fails, you also don't want to have the nonchalant, like, oh, whatever, it's fine. Like you're going to be like, okay, I need to make that better. So how do you separate those two things?
I think that is really hard
Yeah.
for me, in particular, because I do put a lot of effort and work into the things that I produce, and so when they fail or they are not as good as I want them to be, I do feel like that is a direct reflection of me. I'm getting better about that, I think, but I do think that is. I think that's difficult. I think one of the things in the same book, The Speed of Trust, he talks about kind of like these 4 levels of trust. And the first one is self-trust. It's like we think of trust in terms of other people, like I trust you, you trust me. But in reality, there has to be some self-trust before we can really offer our full trust to other people.
That's deep.
Yeah. Everything come back to you. So this is what I'm finding. This is what I'm finding in all of these, in these 20 episodes we've done, or in the tech talks I've done. Everything is just like when you're working on your relationships. When we think about working on relationships, we think about really working on this other person, or when you're working on your relationships, you're working on yourself, because you can't do anything about the other person in the relationship. You guys can make a commitment to work together, but I think trust is no different. I think it comes back to you. I think it has to start with you first. So in terms of my work, I have to have enough self-trust in myself to be able to hear that this body of work is not as great as you thought it was. I have to have enough trust in myself to be able to hear that feedback and do something with it. So I guess since I'm still struggling to separate the two, what that says is maybe I don't have enough trust in my capability to be able to navigate through when things fail. Or I'm not trusting that I'm worthy enough outside of my work.
It's not an easy thing to say.
Nope, sure isn't. That's why my high five on my mirror every morning is, I am enough just as I am.
I am enough. You are enough.
Just as I am.
If you were to envision what it would look like to separate those two things, like what would that look like?
I don't know. I do think it kind of comes back to what you were. I think it's because you also don't want to hear somebody say, "Hey, you know what? That class you did or that podcast, it wasn't the greatest one." You know, like you don't want to be like, "Oh well."
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to be that person either. So I do think it is finding a balance. So for me, that balance would look like being able to receive the feedback and not want to be defensive. Not want to, I will be crystal clear with everybody on here. People come to classes and we ask them to give us feedback, and we get feedback on the survey. And sometimes I read the feedback and I'm like, that doesn't even make any sense.
What'd they say on it?
I reject this feedback. So one thing for me would be to accept the feedback, for what it is, and then to be able to trust myself to make changes, go back to the drawing board, to be able to use the feedback in the way that it's intended to be used, and not read the feedback and think that it's a personal attack. Maybe that's
hard.
Maybe that's where a lot of the work probably comes in, is like reading the feedback and not taking it as this is a reflection of Meredith. This is a reflection of this class or this body of work or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I think it's good to disassociate.
Yeah.
I like what you just said, the body of work, away from the body, like of self. Like, this is who I am. This is just a body of work I've created. Like, if you make I don't know why my mind goes to building a tent in the woods. I'm like thinking, what's something you can create that other people can see and judge how good it is or not?
Yep.
If you make a crappy shelter in the woods, you can always make a new one. Hey, we can improve these spots. That doesn't mean you suck. It just means like, hey, this right here is probably not going to stand. It's going to fall. Like, we need to fix that. And I'm sure people would be okay, be like, I'll help, or it's not a big deal. They're not looking at you like, dude, you suck.
Right.
Now, I don't know why I'm going back to Naked and Afraid. I think I mentioned that on here before. But watching them build shelters in the woods, knowing that this is literally the only protection they have, I can see how it can be a little spicy when it does rain at night and your shelter leaks, or it's really cold and you can't make fire and you're the fire person.
Yeah.
I can see how you could feel the hurt of like, I feel like I didn't provide for the two of us, or I feel like my skills aren't where they should be, and I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry. And I don't think there's anything wrong with apologizing and like showing that you care. But I think the other person has to be open to be like, hey man, it's cool. Like, don't worry about it. We'll figure this out together tomorrow. And then you have to do the self-work of like, it isn't, some of it, I don't know, some of it may be your fault, but also it's okay that it didn't work out, because not all things are going to work out, and you have to separate those things. So I think there's a balance of acceptance that this did not turn out, my body of work didn't turn out the way that I wanted it to, but also like I'm still worthy and good enough. Like, it doesn't change who I am. It just shows that some skills that I've acquired over time could use some work, which are always, we are in constant state of growth and change. And then our skills are always in that constant state of growth and change. Yeah,
it is. That whole thing is also fascinating to me. And I don't think I even recognized that about myself until I got here. Is that I do feel defined quite a bit by my work.
Yeah.
Brene would probably call that hustling for your worth.
Yeah.
Yep. And so I think that I do think a lot of it comes back to this piece about self-trust, and trusting that I am enough without my body of work, and trusting myself that I can fix it. I can hear it, and I can take the feedback, and then I can do something about it.
Yeah. I watched, of course, some videos from Miss Brene on trust, because she talks a lot about it. She actually defined trust as choosing to make something important to you vulnerable to the actions of someone else. So this is important to me, and being okay releasing that vulnerability to somebody else, to their actions. What are they going to do with it? We've done, I know you've done some classes like that too, just like on different teams here at Morris-Jenkins, and how can we build trust with them. And I did a recent one, and it's amazing in the never split the difference. I do want to talk about that. In the 5 dysfunctions of a team, they define trust as being able to predict someone's behavior. Like, he says that's the standard definition, but the one that he's saying like that it's not that. He talks about it's trust within the team, trust-based vulnerability. But I think trust, when you're thinking about teams, there's an excerpt in here that says, he talks about trust throughout, and he says, as soft as all this might sound, it's only when the team members are truly comfortable being exposed to one another that they begin to act without concern for protecting themselves. As a result, they can focus their energy and attention completely on the job at hand rather than being strategically disingenuous or political with one another. So just thinking about trusting teams, which is a whole other level of trust with people, It's like, I'm trusting you with something that is sensitive to me, or I'm trusting you with my weakness, and being okay knowing that I'm giving you a piece of myself that is sensitive. Hey, this is a weakness that I have, or this is a flaw that I have, and knowing that they're not going to use it against you. And, the other person that's receiving that is like honoring it, but also there's a huge responsibility on your part of not giving them a reason to not trust you. Now, are you going to make mistakes? Of course.
Right.
And there's language that you can use that can hurt trust with people, which is like, you always do this, or you never do that.
Yep.
And so those are sensitive words that you can use that you may not be paying attention to that can hurt trust. Because if you really think about it, it's like, you always do this. And it's like, always?
Right.
Or you never do that. Never. So using the right language with that of like, hey, I've noticed a higher frequency of this, or hey, I noticed that this is happening more often. Can you help me understand where that's coming from? That allows people to open up to you a little bit more, and also still maintain the trust that you currently have.
Yeah, it honestly just makes me think about the situation that we just had this morning with the podcast. Like, so you, as well as everyone else who listens to this and knows me, knows that being prepared, and being thoughtful, and knowing that I have a safety net is important to me. And so the fact that I'm able to come in here today and say to you, I'm not prepared in the way that I would normally be. So number one, to even show up here with this piece of paper that doesn't have anything on it. Well, I'm not sure why I printed it out, but
you have one sentence.
I have one sentence. So to show up here without anything written on this piece of paper says, number one, that I trust you're not gonna make me feel any sort of way about that. You just were like, okay. I mean, I couldn't show up unprepared with everybody. Like, I wouldn't show up to have a conversation with, Jonathan or Brandon, and not that I don't trust them, but there's a different level of trust for me to be able to show up and say, I'm unprepared. I'm a little frazzled. I think you were even able to pick up on the fact that I was a little this morning, but so I could share it, number one, knowing that it wouldn't be used against me. But then also too, I think what helped put a marble in the jar, I don't know if we've talked about the marble jar on here before. I'm sure we have, but Brene talks about that as well, is you have a jar, and every time you do something that builds trust, you put marbles in the jar. And so at first it's just like a few marbles on the bottom, and so you're kind of like, maybe this is going to be a relationship I can trust. But then the more interactions you have, the more things that you work on together as a team, whatever, more and more and more marbles get put in the jar. So I would feel like our jar is pretty full at this point. But I would think a way that you put another marble in the jar is, number one, you offered me an out. Do you want to do this a different time this week? But then when I said no, you also trusted that I could do it.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the different level of trust, I think, that he's talking about in here. It's like, this is not just like you asked me to send Corey an invite and I do it. Like, that's trust too. This is like, I was able to say something that is hard for me to say. I'm not prepared. And then for you to be able to say, okay, if you think you can do it, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And trusting that I can navigate it. And me trusting that if I can't navigate it, then you're going to navigate it.
Yeah.
So I think that that's the different, when he's talking about that in 5 Dysfunctions of the Team, somebody carrying through with a task is very different from that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Well, I appreciate you trusting me.
Yep.
I know. I mean, this is live trust, what you guys are all hearing right now. Because legit, before this, I see her walk in and I'm like, oh, that's different. That's different than the norm. And I knew that the fact that you hadn't been able to prepare like normal is not the norm, which is okay. But at the same time, I'm like, I know she's probably screaming on the inside right now because this is not normal territory.
Yeah.
but I do trust you. Like I know that, I mean, you teach trust and talk about trust all the time.
Yeah.
But even at the same time, you knowing that this will be put out for everybody to hear, and hearing like it could not go in the right direction, but I trust you. Like I trust you 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is just, I think when we say trust, like we talked about when we started, it's such a big piece, but we don't really, I don't think we understand it quite fully. I do think that we think for the most part it is people do what you expect them to do.
Yeah.
But I think that when it comes to teams, when it comes to relationships, it's more than that. It's being able to show up who you are on any given day and know that that's not going to be used against you, and that people still have, I guess faith might be the right word. You know, people still have faith in you that you can, I'm still the same Meredith I was yesterday, a little bit less prepared, but still the same Meredith. And
this is growth though. Like that's how
sure.
I look at it, is like, this is 100% you stepping outside you step outside of your comfort zone so much on this podcast and plenty of other things outside of it. But just seeing that you're willing to show up like that, I'm like, that's a big growth moment for you.
It is.
It's happening live action.
I know.
What was it? He's not the crocodile man. What's he called? Wild man? The guy? That guy? Do y'all know what I'm talking about? Somebody on here make a comment. I forget what his name is. Wild man or whatever. It's not the crocodile hunter. I'll have to find it. I'll put a picture
Steve
of him in
Irwin,
there.
the crocodile hunter.
That's that guy.
Yeah.
Lord rest his soul.
I know.
I do think that another, because you said something that just sparked a thought, like the authenticity side of people being who they say they are, but also having all the reps that you've observed that this is the person that they are. That obviously builds a lot of trust with people. And then if you think if this is the person they've been, and then there's something that has strayed from the baseline, that as a friend or a coworker or whatever, it's like you can build trust, and you don't do it to build trust, but you do it because you care. But it's like, is everything okay? Like, what's going on? I think that when we notice things are outside the baseline, giving a crap of checking in on where their current place is in their life, like what's going on that has made them not be the baseline. Because if you think, most of us would probably stick to our baseline. Even if your baseline is random, like you might have somebody that's very sporadic all the time, and that's their baseline, and then all of a sudden they're very consistent, and it's like, well, what is happening? Yes, Mary Poppins. Exactly. Or somebody that's hyper consistent like yourself, and this is the norm, and then it's outside the baseline. I think when you recognize those things, those can be marble jar moments. I read a book, and it's a very, I will forewarn you guys, it's a very interesting book. I read it to help me with communication, and I teach classes on like body language and all that stuff. But there's a gentleman named Chase Hughes. I've talked about him before with a bunch of different classes, but he has something called the 6-minute X-ray, and essentially the premise behind the book is he teaches you body language, conversation cues, different things you can do to understand who the other person is. Because I think if we can understand the people that we're interacting with, we can be better conversationalists, be better supporters, whatnot. But his book has a warning in it. It's like, this can be used for good or bad. So you can use it to manipulate, or you can use it to be, good people. And of course, we use it for good. But I always found that he has 4 laws in there that were very interesting to me, and I think it ties back to the authenticity piece. But he says the 4 laws that exist in people out there. He says that everyone is suffering and insecure. So he just makes the comment about people that everybody has stuff that they're dealing with all the time. So if you notice that people are outside their baseline, it's like something's probably up. Like, we all have stuff in our lives that's challenging, but if we can understand that everybody has that going on, they make them more like just regular people. No matter who you're talking to, if it's your manager or a celebrity, they look all great and shiny, but if you just really talk to them long enough, you can recognize they have stuff going on. But the next 2, I feel like tie into really the authenticity piece is he says that everyone wears a mask. So we all have a face that we show. And then the 3rd law on here, he says that everyone is pretending not to wear a mask. And so it's like the behind the scenes. And so thinking about trusting people, that mask that we wear all the time is usually like this is who I am. love me. It's like this is who I am on the outside, but who are we allowing to see what's behind the mask of just like who we genuinely are? Mm-hmm. And some people like will let you back there real quick and almost do what Brene talks about of like the overshare, like they share everything with everybody, and that's not what I'm saying. But if we have a thick mask where we don't let anybody behind the scenes, then it's like the authenticity side is like, can I trust you? Because I haven't really actually seen who you are.
Right.
And who are you? And so I think that trust piece, you want to be authentic with people. And so you got to be willing to let people behind the scenes and see some of those areas that, it could be some insecurities or things that you're struggling with. And you ain't got to share it all, but if you give people those little moments of like, this is what's going on in my life, you can really build a lot of trust with people.
Yeah, it makes me think about, I feel like you even talked about this at the Compass group when like Brene talks about, it's almost like the chicken and the egg. Mm-hmm. So what comes first, vulnerability or trust?
Right.
Because it's like you have to be a little bit vulnerable to earn people's trust, to show that, to show who you really are, helps to put marbles in the jar. But then you also have to trust people to be vulnerable. So it's like you got to be vulnerable to trust, but you got to trust to be vulnerable.
Yep.
So it's like, I think that's why.
How do you do that?
How do you do that? Because I do think it is really difficult for people who are so used to wearing a mask and putting up a facade. I think it is sometimes really difficult for them to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because it's the whole point in wearing the mask. It's like, to me, it's like she talks about armor.
Yep.
That's our armor. That mask, that facade, that's our armor. If I keep my armor up, then I'm
safe.
I'm safe.
Yeah.
Yep. Going back to the brain, keeping us safe. If I put my armor up, then I always have my defenses up. Mm-hmm. But then, of course, her point is that if we consistently walk around with our armor on, then are we really living what she calls a wholehearted life? Mm-hmm. Because we're not letting people in. We're not letting people see the real us. And I do think it's really hard for some people to be vulnerable.
Oh, for sure.
And so when it's hard to be vulnerable, then it's hard to put marbles in that jar. So I do think that still, for me, I don't really know what the right answer is. I guess it's vulnerability has to come first.
Well, to throw a little extra gear in the wheel here. So you have vulnerability, then you have trust. And I don't know if she said this, or maybe, I don't know, maybe I heard it somewhere, but the courage is another piece of that, because I have to have courage to be vulnerable in order to build trust. But to build trust, I have to have courage to be, it all ties to each other. And so, I mean, I hate to say it, but if you're going to be vulnerable with people, you don't have to put it all out there, but you have to put all three of those things on the table and say, I'm trusting you, I'm being vulnerable, and I'm having courage all at the same time to put this on the table and trust that you're not going to use it against me. Mm-hmm. So if it's on a trusting team, like Patrick Lencioni talks about in his 5 dysfunctions of a team, if it's on a team, then I have to be soft towards my team. What does she say? Soft front, strong back, or something like that. So I have to be willing to give you the soft side of me, knowing that you're not going to use it against me. But it's so hard to put that trust out there. Mm-hmm. And everybody has varying levels of how freely and how willing they are to give those vulnerable things away. And so for everybody out there, if you have people on your team that are a little bit more guarded, those little moments that they give that to you, like, honor that. Hey, I appreciate you trusting me with that. Or I know that's not easy to talk about, or whatever. And then make sure that you put that in the vault. Like, I'm not telling anybody about that. Mm-hmm. It's between you and I, and that will build trust over time. But if they're less willing to put things out there, you have to really honor those moments and recognize that that's a big measure of trust, a big step they're taking forward. Yeah. And not betray that, because I think in his book, The 5 Dysfunctions, he says, in the context of building a team, trust is confidence among team members that their peers' intentions are good and that there's no reason to be protective or careful around the group. In essence, teammates must get comfortable being vulnerable with one another. But I trust that my teammates' intentions are good and there's no reason to be protective. So if the team is willing to say, hey, this person shared something and I got their back, and they notice that it stays within the team, or that people have each other, then the people that are a little bit more reluctant to share are going to be more open to wanting to share. But you have to make sure that that stuff stays in the vault and people honor that. Don't throw that back in their face. There's no hands from the grave. It's just like, hey, this stays here. And if you got to handle stuff, and I think that's the part that gets really interesting, especially in 5 dysfunctions of a team, noticing that trust is the lowest level of the pyramid that he talks about. All the other stuff, holding each other accountable, paying attention to the results versus inattention to results, all the stuff. Fear of conflict. If I don't trust you, how are you going to have conflict? I was actually just talking to somebody yesterday. If I'm going to have conflict with somebody, we know conflict is neither good nor bad. That's how we manage it. If you're going to have conflict with somebody, it goes a lot better when you have a relationship.
Oh, yeah.
Have a relationship with a person. Then when it's time to talk about those hard moments, they're more willing to hear you. But otherwise, it's just like very regimented, like, hey, I think you need to be doing this. Do you now? You know, it's like now you're battling with somebody, even though they're on your team, or maybe it's on another team and you're supposed to be working together. It always works better in a relationship, but it takes trust.
Yeah, in Crucial Conversations in that book, they say in that book, you should be able to you can talk to anybody about anything as long as you trust the other person's intentions.
Yeah.
No matter how difficult the topic is, no matter how wiggly your insides might feel, if you trust that person's intentions, you should be able to talk to them about anything.
Yeah.
And that's where the trust piece comes back. It's that I trust the intentions of the other person. They're not using what I'm saying against me. They're going to hear my point of view. All of those things, I think a lot of it comes back to intention, which in The Speed of Trust, the way that he, this is not he, I don't think, or maybe this is him defining it. He says, so what is trust? Rather than giving a complex definition, I prefer to use the words of Jack Welch, former CEO of General Electric. He said, you know it when you feel it. Simply put, trust means confidence. The opposite of trust, distrust, is suspicion. When you trust people, you have confidence in them, in their integrity and in their abilities. When you distrust people, you are suspicious of them, of their integrity, their agenda, their capabilities, or their track record. It's that simple. And so I thought those were 2 interesting words. Trust means confidence. Distrust means suspicion. And when you are suspicious, no matter what it is we're suspicious of, immediately our defenses are up. We're more cautious because, going back to the brain up there trying to keep us alive, if I'm telling my brain to be suspicious of a person or a thing, it doesn't matter what it is, well, of course, I'm not showing or sharing my most authentic self with people when I feel suspicious.
Right.
Just that word in and of itself makes you kind of feel like step back.
Right.
So I thought that was a simple, straightforward way to put it. Trust is confidence. Distrust is suspicion.
Well, even the suspicion side comes from the part of the brain that's surrounded with emotion, which is our limbic brain.
Yep.
Your neocortex. On the front side of your brain, that's what is centered around communication and like more complex thought. But your limbic brain is just all emotions, feelings, and all that. So that's where all that comes from. But being suspicious of somebody, suspicion is more of an emotion than anything. You can think logically, why am I suspicious of this person? And you may be able to have circumstances, they did this, they did that, but your emotional side is what drives all that behavior. So if you notice somebody's done something and you're suspicious, it's a natural thing, but we're not thinking of it, it's just a behavior.
Yep.
So why would I share things logically with people if I don't have trust? Well, the trust side comes from what he just said. You just know it when you feel it. It's straight up a feeling. Mm-hmm. Now there's situations that can build trust and that do build trust, but we're not just thinking logically speaking, 17 times this person has showed trust towards me and vulnerability. When we hit 18, it's all in. We are now trusting. It's straight up a feeling. Just like you ask somebody, when did you fall in love? Like, it's straight up a feeling.
Yep.
So those little moments over time, those are what build up. And I love the marble jar analogy. It's moments that it's like, man, this person gives me that good, warm, fuzzy feeling that I know that they've got my back. Somebody's like, hey, I'm going to tell you this in confidence. If you tell anybody, I'll kill you. And I'm only telling you, so I know if it gets out, it's you. But like recognizing it never got out, so I guess they've got me. There was a cool quote that I really liked when it comes to team. It says, trusting teams emerge when all members surrender me for we. When it's all about the team. And so I think usually that trust starts with somebody on the team, and then when you have those team moments, those dynamic moments where the team comes together, trust builds even more. And then when the team trusts each other, then I'm surrendering the me piece, where I'm just going to come in and get my job done. Whatever everybody else does, that's on them. Like, it's like I'm looking at my other team members. I want them to be successful too, so I'm going to have their back. I remember this training team when COVID hit. I always remember, I'm going back to quarantine, Shallon, but we had a trainer was teaching one of our classes for plumbing, and then things got difficult. COVID hit, and it was just like all hands on deck, and everybody on the team at the time just dove in and had to build classes and help, and people had to go home. And I mean, imagine learning plumbing from home.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. But everybody came together, and our team got stronger because of that moment. And each person on the team had their area that they had to work on, and you had to just trust they were going to do it, because frankly, none of us had time to actually go and help, because it's like, I got my own thing to make sure to get this done. But I'm trusting that you get your part done, because it's the next link in the track here, and I'm going to get my piece done. And then everybody came together. So, I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing when teams come together. In the book we were reading, it's Silos, Politics, Turf Wars. And there they offer teams can come together when there's a crisis. So if it's like something's going down, the whole team's like, I'm dropping everything. What do I have to do? Titles don't matter. Yeah. Roles don't matter. It's like, how are we going to tackle this? You even think about Morris-Jenkins. It's like, hey, look, AI is coming down the pipe, and here's what's going to happen. Cyberdyne is going to take over. We've got to carve out our own patch of heating and air and plumbing and electrical here in Charlotte. How are we going to do that? And then everybody in the company comes and sits down in a forum. It's like, titles don't matter. Put your ideas out here. What do you got? And you'd be surprised how many people come up with like great ideas or are into stuff that you're like, what?
Yeah. Like
there was a tech, he was like, oh, I'm into building computers. And which is, I mean, it's sweet, but I had no idea.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, we need help in the IT department right now. We're getting swamped. And you have like 3 techs are like, I build computers all the time. I'm pretty good with coding. And it's like, what?
Right.
I had no idea you were in that. Sometimes it's just asking.
Yeah. And if there's no trust there, then people don't always feel this.
Right.
They don't always feel comfortable enough to be able to say, hey, I'm good at that,
Yep.
or I'm not good at that. This is somebody else probably needs to take this project because that's not my jam.
Right.
Like we were talking about before, it's being able to admit, where you fall short,
Yep.
and your team being okay with that. Okay, you can't do that part. I'll take that part. What about this? It's like if you're in crisis mode, we quickly find out how we're going to navigate something like that. Could we use what we learn from ourselves during crisis mode in all other times too? You
would hope that we would be able to, but I think it's easy for people to slip back into, hey, this is my spot, this is my zone, I'm just going to come in and get my job done.
Yep.
And instead of thinking in that, and I truly believe that environment, that stuff is created from the manager, whatever the department's going to be, and typically it's the environment's created by your direct report, your supervisor or whatever, but it's management's job to create the environment for people to be able to feel like they are, they can trust other people on the team, can share, like, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yep.
What does it sound like to be trusting on a team? Meredith, I am terrible at this, and I either need help or I need one of y'all to do this because I'm not good at this. Or it's, I made a big mistake. I messed up on this royally, and I'm going to fix it, or I need help to fix this. So just those admissions of like, this is a shortcoming of mine and I need help. That's what vulnerability and trust truly looks like in the real world.
Yeah. And like you were saying, though, I mean, the leader goes first. The leader goes first. If the leader of a department or a group or whatever, even at home, it's like being able to say in front of my kids, like, I messed up, I forgot, or I didn't get it taken care of the way that I said I was going to. I mean, if I'm not doing that and modeling that for my kids, then how do they know that that's the right way to navigate that conversation? How do they know how to be vulnerable? How do they know how to do those things? And so I think, yes, the leader goes first when we're talking about in the essence of the organization or the team, but I think that applies, even in our personal lives.
Yeah.
If I go first, then obviously it makes it easier for other people to say what they need to say as well.
Good enough parenting.
Good enough.
Rock Chick Natalie, I got you.
That is right. Good enough parenting.
I didn't even think about trust in the parenting role. When you think about being married or having kids and just like, I messed that up. Or, hey, we're going to try this. If it doesn't work out, it is what it is. We'll figure it out. You mess up in front of your kids. Daddy made a bad decision. Or daddy, I didn't prepare for that. I'm like, whatever it is. Or maybe you reprimand your kids for something and like, hey, that was too harsh, or I'm sorry. Just those admissions, that builds trust with your kids. Yep. And I think the first times that they see that of mommy and daddy are just people too, just like me, versus being up on this pedestal of they are perfect and they don't make mistakes and they know exactly what they're doing because they read the manual as being a parent. If y'all haven't seen that, it's in the library. So I do think that those admissions of these are shortcomings of mine, I think that builds trust with people, but then it also, I think that self-trust that you were talking about goes back to self. Excuse me. I think that's what allows you to grow and develop as a person. I trust myself to be vulnerable with people, show that courage. I think that development. I mean, this whole thing we call life is about our own development. Yeah, I heard a guy the other day. I want to get your thoughts on this because this kind of links together. He said that he was kind of upset. His name's Keith. He was kind of upset because a coach that they were doing like a seminar, and the lady offered that everything that we do is out of our own self-interest. That is a selfish choice. And he raised his hand and was like, I have some thoughts for that. And she basically like reprimanded him and like, I don't need your opinion. This is truth and fact. And he was kind of hurt by that. And he says he's been thinking about it for a long time. Like this was years in the past. And so he says, you know what I recognized? My own raising of my hand to offer thoughts was out of my own self-interest, because he's like, I had questions about it. I was curious about it more, but it's like, I don't need any of your comments or questions because what I'm telling you is truth. And so then that makes me think of, he was a little hurt by that, but he's like, but if you think about it, a lot of the things that we do are out of that interest for self. And it's kind of like a weird thought to think about, but why don't we admit stuff to people? Well, it's about me. The actions that I take or don't take, it's about me. And as much as you love things, I go to Chewy's because it makes me feel better. Yeah. Or I'm in a relationship, I love this person, but they make me feel good. But I mean, if you really think about trust with people, it's like we're guarding ourselves. We're holding all this stuff back because we don't want to be hurt, versus thinking about the team. I'm doing these things to better the team. It's no, I'm trusting people because I'm hoping they have my back. So it was kind of a.
I think I think that's an accurate statement. And listen, I love helping other people. Right? I love helping other people, but me helping other people, that is also selfish because that satisfies my needs.
Yeah.
motivating to me. Was just thinking about this crazy week of starting school. I often put other people before myself, but I do that for me because I like to feel needed. I like to be the one who helps make sure everybody's prepared, make sure we have everything on the calendar. Is that putting other people above me? Yes, but at the same time, that is also about me.
Yeah.
That's me needing to have a plan. That's me needing to feel like we have some control. That's me, that all of those things, which are great. I mean, it's great that my kids felt prepared for school. It's great that I like to help people. And if you come to my desk and say, can you help me? I'm always going to turn around and say yes. Those things are great. And one would think from the outside looking in that is about the other person. But in most ways, that is about me.
Right.
It's about me needing to feel needed, wanted, important. It's fulfilling those needs in myself.
Yep.
So, and I just think that that's how humans are created. I really do. I just think, like we talked about the brain, its only job is to keep us alive. And so I do think at the end of the day that is how that's kind of how we operate, is to self-preserve. I don't think that I'm a selfish person, but I do think that a lot of the things we do, even the things that come across as good for others, are a lot of times fulfilling our own needs.
Yeah. It's an interesting thought. Interesting thought of the day.
This is, we won't get into this one today, but this is some for another time. This is another thought that I think would be interesting to explore is, do you think everyone is doing the best that they can every day?
Yes.
Okay, we don't need to talk about it any further because I also agree.
Book is closed. No, I do think that would be an interest. I was being funny, but I do think that we should talk about that another day.
Okay.
Because I feel like that would be an interesting topic. I'm going to write that one down.
Yep. So those of you out there, be thinking about that for the next time we talk about that. The question is, do you think that people are doing the best they can every day? And I'm talking about even the people that cut you off on 485. Even the mamas and daddies who still do not know how to do the carpool line.
Why do you got to drop that bomb as we're wrapping this puppy up? Because my initial thought is no, because you can always be better and do better. But I think if you have, it's like the chicken or the egg almost, and it's like if you have the awareness that you have a maximum capacity of what you can do, are you redlining every day? I guess that's where my mind goes. Like when I worked out this morning, did I go as hard as I possibly could have? No. Yeah. What does it look like to do that? Is it smart to do that every day, longevity wise? So is the best that I can do being smart in the long run, or is it maxing myself out every day?
Is it taking a toll on your physical, going back to our first?
Yes.
Physical aging.
Yes. Which is why I'm going to pray to the Lord Jesus tonight to not age physically anymore because of I can't take it. Okay, let's bring this in for a landing.
All right.
So we talked about trust today. Fill in the gaps because I know you got a lot of notes over there. So trust, it's one of those things. It can be to predict somebody's behavior, but also there's in the 5 dysfunctions of a team, they talk about trust-based vulnerability. I have to be able to open up to other people knowing that they're not going to use it against me, like I just used on Meredith just a moment ago. I've got to measure the balance between trust, vulnerability, and courage, recognizing that it's almost I got to put it all on the table or not at all. We carry and wear armor all the time. And so in order to be a trusting individual and trust other people, we have to be willing to lower that armor. Maybe that'd be a good episode, is to examine the different forms of armor out there. And trust essentially is having confidence in the good intentions of the people around us. You can have strong teams if you have trust. If you don't have trust, the team isn't really much of a team at all. You're just co-workers. You're just cohabitating. So you got to be able to trust people.
Okay. I don't really have much to add.
Okay, great.
I think that was great.
Great.
Because I, of course, did not have a Q&A question ready for Spotify. But as you were just saying that, I think the question that goes back to what I would have added to the rapid fire recap is whose marble jar are you filling? Whose marble jar are you filling? And are there people in your life that you need to make an effort to put some more marbles in that jar? Because like I read to you guys at the very beginning, trust is around us 24/7, 365. And I'm wondering if we're all contributing to people's marble jars.
Yep. Are you putting marbles in the jar or taking it out?
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about taking it out, but we do that too.
Yep.
Yep. So I don't exactly know how to.
We'll put one on there for you guys.
That's right.
Something
By
about,
the time I email Corey, I'll have it down, right?
something about marbles.
Something about marbles. But I would challenge everybody to really start thinking about that. Are you adding or taking away to people's marble jars, and how are you building that trust? Because it is so crucial.
Love it.
Yep. Okay. Do not forget to follow us on Spotify or Apple so you never miss an episode. I hope that I have done okay. Corey,
You did good.
hook me up.
You did good.
Make me sound good, Corey.
We need to do this more often.
I don't know about that. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful 2 weeks until we are together again. Thank you for listening. Until then, peace, love, and easy does it.
Appreciate y'all.